Good morning, everyone. Thank you. A warm welcome to our Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of San Miguel de Allende. Buenos días y una muy cálida bienvenida a nuestra comunidad unitaria universalista de San Miguel de Allende. Thank you for joining us in this joyous day. Muchas gracias por acompañarnos en este día tan especial. In the spirit of inclusivity and acceptance, we welcome everyone, wherever you are, regardless of background of belief, whichever your race, and whoever you love, to join us in this exploration. Here, you are encouraged to bring your whole self as we embrace the diversity of experiences that shape our individual perspectives. Together, we weave a tapestry of love, acceptance, and growth. En el espíritu de inclusión y aceptación, damos la bienvenida a todos, donde quiera que estén, sin importar su origen o creencia, cualquiera que sea su raza y a quien sea que amen, a unirse a nosotros en esta exploración. Aquí se les anima a ser su ser completo, mientras abrazamos la diversidad de experiencias que dan forma a nuestras perspectivas individuales. Juntos tejemos una tela de amor, aceptación y crecimiento. I am Paola Turandot, a proud member of our fellowship and your service leader for today. Thank you for choosing to be a part of this meaningful gathering. Before we move on into our worship time, we would like to welcome our visitors, and we have a couple of announcements. Soy Paola Turandot, un orgulloso miembro de esta congregación y su líder de servicio del día de hoy. Gracias por elegir ser parte de esta reunión tan significativa. Antes de dar inicio a nuestro servicio, nos gustaría dar la bienvenida a nuestros visitantes y tenemos algunos anuncios. After the service, those on Zoom are invited to stay connected and visit with others in the main room for discussion. And if you're visiting, please type in your name and how you heard of us and where you're from in the chat box so we can greet you personally later. Those who are with us in the aldea can join us for cookies and coffee right over there after the service. Después del servicio, aquellos que están en Zoom están invitados a quedarse para una plática y los invitamos a que los que estén con nosotros en la aldea se unan para café y galletas. And take your coffee and check at the welcome table with lots of information and opportunities. And also come to our Thursday lunch and games events here in San Miguel and Tom's Coffee Hour on Zoom. You can check your order of service for that information. Thank you. Igualmente los invitamos a que se registren directamente en nuestra mesa para ver toda la información y las oportunidades que la congregación ofrece, y los invitamos a que se unan a nosotros a las tardes de juegos en la frontera los jueves y a la Coffee Hour de Tom por Zoom. Más información la pueden encontrar en su orden de servicio. And I don't appear to have any index cards, so if you are a visitor here with us today, please rise so we can greet you properly. Any visitors with us? ¿Algún visitante el día de hoy con nosotros? Okay, we do record our Sunday in-person services, and you can find a link to this on our website at UUFSMA.org. And while on the website, please check out the various events sponsored by our fellowship and information on how to become a member. Les recordamos que en nuestro sitio web UUFSMA.org pueden ver nuestros servicios anteriores y la información sobre eventos y cómo convertirse en un miembro de nuestra congregación. Now we move on to our opening words. Querido Dios de los cantos temblorosos y las oraciones, con largas pausas significativas para que pueda pensar qué decir. Recuérdame que no se trata de ser extraordinario, profesional o perfecto. Recuérdame que practicar significa que estoy creciendo. Recuérdame que incluso una canción incómoda nos hace respirar. Dear God, of shaky, sighing prayers, with long, meaningful pauses so I can think about what to say. Remind me that it's not about being extraordinary or professional or perfect. Remind me that practicing means I'm growing. Remind me that even an awkward song gets us breathing. Un silencio extrañamente colocado frena nuestro pánico. Se escucha una oración incluso cuando murmuro. Recuérdame que tengo ofrendas, ancestros cuyas historias dan fuerza, comida que nutre, melodías para el coraje y el descanso, toque que calma. An oddly placed silence slows her panic. A prayer is heard when I mumble. Remind me that I have offerings, ancestors whose stories have given strength, food that nourishes, melodies for courage and rest, touch that soothes. Recuérdame que somos seres espirituales y merecemos alimento espiritual. En nuestras largas reuniones, en las calles, en la cárcel, en la corte, en las conferencias telefónicas. Recuérdame que merecemos alimento espiritual. Remind me that we are spiritual beings and we deserve spiritual nourishment. In our long meetings, in the streets, in the jail, at court, on the conference call, remind me that we deserve spiritual nourishment. We light this flame to remind us that love is center. As we grow and connect, mature and deepen, love remains the center. When we light of truth burns all elsewhere, love remains. And now, as we begin our service with gratitude and reverence, let us join our voices together in song, When Our Heart is a Holy Peace. Words will appear on the screen. It is not always easy to find love at the center. There is not a set of easy instructions, numbered 1 through 7, or maybe 8. It is not always easy to find love at the center. Today, in Covenant, we celebrate our living tradition, which invites us to take deep breaths of fresh air into the newest of every day, so our minds, hearts, and spirits will be continually nourished. It is not always easy to find love at the center. So for today, we gather in Covenant to celebrate the reality that love is at the core of our beings and that love will guide us if we open ourselves to the challenges which love requires of us. May we accept this challenge with dignity and grace. And now, I invite you all to join together in reciting this fellowship's unique covenant. This is our promise that we aspire to of how to be in relation to each other and the larger world. First in Spanish with me, and then with Mary Lou leading us in English. I invite you now to rise again for a covenant. Thank you. The words will appear on the screen. Respetamos todos los estilos de vida dentro de su red interdependiente y trabajamos por un mundo justo y pacífico. Alentamos la búsqueda de la verdad y la comprensión total. Nos esforzamos por mantener compasión en nuestras relaciones y buscamos valores que beneficien nuestras vidas y las vidas de los demás. Este es nuestro convenio.
We respect the interdependent web of life and work for a just and peaceful world. We encourage the search for truth and meaning, strive for compassion in our relationships, and seek values that will benefit our lives and the lives of others. This is our covenant.
You may see, yeah. We now enter a very important time in our service, when as a community, we can share each other's joys and as well as burdens. I invite everyone who came here, either electronically or in person, to take a breath, settle, and feel each other's presence today. As we gather each week together, we light candles for what is in our hearts. Each candle we light signifies that though that person is held by all of us. This is part of weaving one congregation, one community over time. To share a joy or concern in future service, you can email to our minister, Tom Rosillo, or write something on a card which you'll feel at the welcome table where you pick up today's order of service in the entrance. I have some here in my phone. Let me just get to that, sorry. We light our first candle for Maya Williams and support for her husband, Rev. Y.M. Rosal. Maya Williams, age 68, passed away peacefully at her home here in San Miguel earlier this week. Maya was a major contributor to the San Miguel community, serving as co-director of the San Miguel Writers' Conference and Literary Festival. In addition to working with internationally known writers, she encouraged and helped to refine and promote the work of many local writers by teaching workshops, launching crosswords, and San Miguel's annual bilingual arts culture magazine. The notes for condolence can be sent to YM by email at email4yman@gmail.com. And any cards or flowers might be given to Paola Peace today, if there's any. Wyman will enjoy personal visits, but would appreciate if people contact him first to set up a time. Information on the celebration of her life will follow soon. We light a candle of joy for those who were released from the Russian prisons and returned to their homelands and reunited with their families in prisoner exchange this week. We light a candle of concern for Reverend Release Green. After being too ill to deliver her last two sermons here in person, she continues to battle what might be a long COVID here. She had to delay her travel back to Washington, D.C. She finally flew back just 2 days ago and is continuing to recuperate there and see her own doctor tomorrow. We wish her a full recovery very, very soon. And we light another candle for Else Marie Norby. She is a longtime member, and it's a home and hospice. We light this candle to keep her in our hearts and send much, much love to her. We light a candle of concern for Claudia Vilches. She's my mom. She's having surgery next Friday, so we just keep her in her hearts and hope that everything goes perfectly smooth. Do we have anything in the chat? Okay, we light a candle of concern for health of our eco-binding family and our family in Knox, Florida. Our caring extends from this community to the world. As we have done over 2 years, we light our blue and yellow candle for the suffering and deaths on both sides, resulting from Russia's invasion of Ukraine. And we light our red candles as we hold in our hearts those living through the ongoing horror and suffering in Gaza and Israel. Both the Israeli civilians killed and kidnapped on October 7th, and the tens of thousands of deaths, primarily of innocent Palestinians, who are struggling to survive during this humanitarian crisis. And now, a candle and a moment of silence for all those joys, sorrows, and concerns that have not been shared, but are held and spoken in our hearts. You may now come forward silently to light a candle of joy and concern of your own.
What is the difference between fear and armor? And when you say that the greatest barrier to daring leadership is not fear, it's armor, that seems confusing to me because what's the difference? The difference is we all feel afraid, but not all of us armor up. I think the most daring, transformative leaders that we've worked with acknowledge the fear and acknowledge the drive. I mean, the really limbic drive to put on some armor and self-protect. But they stay in the fear and work through it and work from a place of open mind, open heart, curiosity. My team confronts me about the kind of unrelenting timelines I'm putting on things and how they're unrealistic, they're driving failure, it's creating churn, it's creating problems, and that I need to step back and take a look at why I'm driving these timelines and why I'm not listening to their feedback about more realistic timelines. So that puts me in some fear, like I'm not doing my job, right, as a leader. So I can choose to armor up, and I can choose to say, well, if you can't meet those timelines, I can find some people who can. Or I can go into perfectionism and say, oh my God, I'm gonna get better at it. I'm gonna learn how to do it. I'm gonna be really good at it. Or, defensiveness, perfectionism, numbing. I can just go home and spend 14 hours on social media, eat 15, cupcakes and, do my thing. Or I can say, shit, I recognize this. This is fear. I'm in fear right now. I'm not good in this. And so I hear y'all. I trust what you're saying. I'm grateful for you telling me. I'm gonna need a few hours to get my head around it and have a hard rumble with you on why I think it's happening. The problem is that fear is just kind of a natural response. Armor, for a lot of us, is a natural response. I'm asking, fear can stay the natural response, make armor a conscious choice. To say, am I self-protecting right now in a way that moves me away from courage, my values, and being a good leader?
I'm Carla Espinoza. Hi. I will speak from my perspective as a person, because I start from the lenses with which I can see my life. I cannot talk about realities that I don't know. And because that could be rude, insensitive. But also, I'm talking from my neurodiversity. That's my way to show empathy and love to those around me. This service could become a university class describing the 5 languages of love and explaining in detail. However, the time that we have dedicated with the members of the Sunday Service Committee, seeking to the services, being kind, beautiful, inviting, and reflecting, takes me away from that university explanation where I could only explain concepts. For me, this is the way in which these individuals show love for their community. So I will avoid making this a class. When putting ourselves at service, in one of its expression as an act, we usually take for granted the effort implies to expose ourselves and be vulnerable in front of a community like this. We know that we like to listen and analyze and question everything. Sometimes this vulnerability on the part of those who are who we are, and can open to beautiful ideas or messages that can touch the soul. Other times, we'll just think that it's over and we can continue with our day, and more importantly, the coffee. These human vulnerabilities are complex. There are people around us who deserve them, and there are those who doesn't deserve it. It will be interesting to do the reflection and the exercise and think, were it worth for me to show myself vulnerable? It's a safe space. Will it work? Will it worth? Can we develop or restrain to more safety spaces within our community to show us our vulnerability? But also, to what extent do I put the limit of my vulnerability? Better yet, when does this stop being my act of love and becomes the display of my ego? The ego can disguise itself as an act of love or empathy. Where are the people that find difficult to identify? Because it is done for a noble cause, but why this feeling makes me feel bad? The ego does not need a negative label, as is socially known, but it's important to take into consideration since it's part of what forms us as an individuals. Sometimes, as a community or people accustomed to competing to the system in which we live, the ego turns and guides our actions, pushing us to forget that we live in a community and we flourish in collaboration, as always, with love at the center. In my experience, refusing to show myself vulnerable is more linked to my ego than what I might be feeling in that moment. Surprise, the feelings are human. And one of the few things that we are taught they hide it in are okay. It's okay, hide our feelings, we're taught. But what they did not imagine is that the feelings came out and escaped disguise, for example, in acts of service, such as the one I mentioned in the committees, the organizers, and the people who develop all these activities in our community, the cookie dealers, and those who show up every Sunday to carry out an action that make us feel as a community. Another love language is a quality time, fully dedicating the time to those or to that what we love. In the case of some neurodivergents like me, it's more like what therapists call the parallel play. I just be there in the same space. I might not talk or interact, but it's my way of telling you that I'm here and I love you, or I love this. Words are not necessary in this case as the language of affirmation, where that's the priority. By the way, when was the last time we told someone important that we love them? I recommend you to do that after this service. Sometimes being afraid of being too much, expressing too much, and saying too much. I understand. It's scary. And that the speed and the search of practicity sometimes make us to overlook things. Of course, I love them. That's why I travel to see them. That's why I do these activities. That's why I prepare that recipe that they love. But let's not ignore the fact that these acts and how I express it, it's how I am. Sometimes we also have to say, hey, I'm doing this because I love you. I love what's happening, or I love the project. The diversity in the way that we feel love and how we express it sometimes make us to expect from others actions, word, or physical displays of affections that will not maybe appear. They are not like the way in which others usually express it. But if we don't say what we want or what we think is appropriate, then we will not receive it. In this community, we know how to express our needs in a respectful, resilient, and consistent way. Let's keep trying. The diversity in the way we feel and express love can lead to misunderstanding. If we do not communicate our expectations and needs by expressing our feelings in a respectful and consistent way, we avoid frustration and the feeling of being ignored or unloved. This not only improves our individual experience, but strengthens the cohesion of our community. Finally, my invitation is to reflect on how we can continue to grow and improve in the expression of love and vulnerability. True love and empathy arise from authenticity and mutual understanding. Through these reflections, I hope we can create a safer and more loving environment where everyone can feel valued and understood, even in our diversity. Placing love at the center of your life transforms the way you experience and understand the world, gives you the chance of a greater connection, security, purpose, and satisfaction, and motivates you to continually grow and learn. This approach not only improves the quality of our relationships or our community, but also helps your life a fuller and more meaningful life. I invite you to starting today, to dare, to be a little more vulnerable, to share your thoughts in a respectful way, and your feelings, your fears, and your hopes with those around you. Let's build together a community where authenticity is valued and vulnerability is a force that unites us, and we don't assume that everyone gets how we think love is appropriately displayed.
The relationship between ego and being defensive is very complicated because the word ego has a bad name, but there's a way that our ego is the sense of self, which also I think can be non-defensive or defensive. And so when the ego structure has been shaped by a belief in how we use power, that either you have it or I have it, almost like it's a bar of gold that we would fight over, which is the essence, in a way, of when we're in power struggle, then to be able to take accountability, to be able to own what we're doing, even to be able to be truly curious when we're seeing things differently than the other person. If I'm in that old structure where doing any of that is going to feel like I've lost or I haven't won, then my ego is going to interfere with my taking accountability. But when I can shift to a model that is based on openness and honesty and curiosity, then all of a sudden it becomes something beautiful to take that accountability, and it creates an incredible connection with the other person. And so then the ego is an ego that is, I think, balanced and healthy and open, instead of being locked into a system of winning or losing.
I come on Sunday feeling weary, having worn out the snooze button of my alarm clock. I come on Sunday feeling frightened, having seared my eyes reading the latest news. I come on Sunday feeling burdened, having fretted about my workday worries. But I leave Sunday. I leave Sunday service feeling refreshed, having been renewed by the spirit of love in the community that exists here. I leave Sunday service feeling whole, feeling lifted up by the words of righteous challenge. I leave Sunday service feeling energized, ready to continue our fight for peace and justice. This heaven, this refugee, this place of worship and wonder exists because we make it so. With our contributions, the gifts of our time, our skills, our food, our love, our laughter, and our money. Please join me in giving so that we may continue to have a place that fortifies and challenges us in these trying and terrible times. Now the offering will be gratefully received. Thank you.
Let's join our voices together in song hymn number 311. Let it be a dance. I invite you to rise in body and spirit. The words will appear on the screen.
Let it be a dance we do. May I have this dance with you through the good times and the bad times too. Let it be a dance. Let a dancing song be heard. Play the
We extinguish this flame to remind us that love is the center. As we explore and rest, engage and heal, love remains the center. And when we can see as cold ashes, love remains.
Spirit of life and love and transformation. May we hold the moments of fear with wisdom and awareness. May they be our teachers and open us in a wider in spirit. May we seek out the moments of wonder. May we open ourselves to be overcome by their possibilities, so that we, too, can become transformed. May it be so. Espíritu de vida, amor y transformación, que podamos afrontar los momentos de miedo con sabiduría y conciencia, que sean nuestros maestros y nos abran más en espíritu, que busquemos los momentos de asombro, que nos abramos a dejarnos superar por sus posibilidades para que nosotros también podamos transformarnos. Que así sea.